was over a lot. He actually lived with Ed Townsend, Rodescu Hopkins at the time.
I know he runs.
They run Trigger Warning.
That's right. Yes, Ed Townsend, and what was the other guy?
Rodescu Hopkins.
I don't think I remember him, but
they're a duo. They're very funny.
Well, that's cute. How long have you been doing comedy?
2.5 years.
And what made you decide to do all of this?
I was in grad school and I matched with a guy on Tinder who was a comic, and he ended up becoming my best friend in the world. Like platonic best friend, but he was like, "Oh, you should come to this open mic." And I just like gone through a breakup and I was really busy studying, and so like going to the mic was just fun. It was this mic in the suburbs. And I would just like go once a week, just, to hang out. And it was just, I did that for a couple months. And then I would like talk to the comics, and like we all became friends, and they're like, "You could try it. Like you could do it." And I was like, "I couldn't do that." They're like, "You could do it."
And
so
here we are.
I was just like, "All right, I'll try it." And then I got laughs, and I was like, "Oh fuck, okay."
Like the first time you did it?
Yeah.
Nice.
I was like, I guess it's it's not like the first set I did was amazing, but like I got a laugh, and I was like, "Oh, okay, all right."
Did you understand like structure and stuff, or did you just go with your gut?
Yeah, I mean, I have a background in theater and performance, and I had written jokes. I had done something similar a couple years prior. There were these comics in the scene. I don't remember their names. I don't think they're still here, but they had this show called Fuck Tales, where different people would come in and it would be like a story in relation to a sexual experience, but like on a funny, like like the first time I lost my virginity, like something funny.
Yeah.
And I got invited to do that because I knew a girl who was dating one of the people, or her partner was dating one of the people. It was like a
connection.
Yeah, it was a connection. And so they were like, "Oh, you've got good stories. You should do it." So I did that. And I remember like people laughed at some of the stuff I said. And I was like, "Oh, that was kind of fun."
Yeah.
But it took a couple more years.
You said you were in grad school for theater?
No, I was in grad school for speech pathology.
I'm sorry.
That's okay.
I keep forgetting that.
That's all right.
Wow. Okay. And is the goal to be a professional comic, or what's the goal? Just doing it because you like doing it?
I want to get real good at it. I would love to be a professional comic, but I feel like I feel like I could be better than where I am now. So I want to see how good I can get.
I know that feeling.
Yeah. Why did you start?
How
long have you been doing it?
Stand-up comedy consistently about 5-6 years.
Wow.
And then I did improv for about 10 years. I started when I was 14, and I did theater and stuff. And I kind of always knew I wanted to do stand-up when I was a kid. I didn't even know what it was. When you're a kid and you see something but you don't have the words for it. I knew I wanted to do it. But everybody pushed me towards basketball for obvious reasons, and just I was just in a really disencouraging or unencouraging?
Unencouraging. Yeah.
Unencouraging.
I don't think disencouraging is a word.
Non-encouraging. Not an encouraging. The opposite of encouraging.
Yeah.
I was in the opposite of an encouraging environment for like anything I wanted to do.
Okay.
And so you had that too?
No.
Okay.
No, everyone in my life has been very encouraging of me.
That's good to hear.
Yeah, I grew up in a very I feel like that hurts my comedy. I have very little childhood trauma.
Really?
Like I had a very nice life.
I've been in doing this. I've met a few people. I don't think I've met anybody in the middle. I've met people on very opposite extremes.
Yeah.
Where do you know Aaron Klein?
Yeah.
He stood out to me as one who was on the extreme of like no trauma and just a sweet, beautiful person.
Yeah.
And then when I talked to...
Well, I don't know. That nose ring is pretty traumatic.
It is it's pretty hardcore. I think that's the level of his trauma.
But you know what? I think that he really counterbalances the hardcoreness of the nose ring with how he wears socks with like slip-on shoes in the winter.
I did not notice he did that.
Instead of boots.
I'm going to need to pay attention.
This is a shout out at Aaron. If this is a roast and you're listening, cancel me. I'm going to say it. Boy, buy some boots. I'm so worried about your feet.
I think he's just going to use his spirituality to allow him to float through the snow.
It is cold. This is Chicago. Buy some Docs and protect your Tootsies.
And you grew up out here, right?
I did.
Oh, do you plan on moving or staying?
We'll see. We'll see what happens.
Where life takes you.
Yeah.
The stand-up work. Yeah, and then moving out here, the feeling like you need to be better. Like I came out here, and the first week I was very egotistical. I was like, man, I got this.
Isn't that fun?
And then and then and then as more mics happened and I got to see more comics, I was like, God damn, okay.
You're like, I ain't shit.
Yeah. I feel like at my core, I have all of these I have these great things that need to be developed. I feel like I have a lot of very dull knives that work, but need to be sharpened.
Sure.
And that, I know we talked about it at the Mike, you and Bob Run. I can't remember which one. Gold Star.
Yeah.
About
you caught me on a bad week too.
Yeah, what was going on?
That was just work stuff. It was some hardcore work stuff going on, but that was a rough day too.
It seemed like
and I was hungry. Yeah. Like I was hungry and tired, but you know what? I feel like I had a good set that night. I feel like I pulled it out. I'm pretty sure I did.
You didn't. I'm glad you seem. It's funny. My perception of everyone changes the more I do these podcasts with people. Like everybody I've met, I have one view of them, and then the longer I talk to them, the more I'm like, oh, this is the little intricacies of people. But you seemed very aggressive as a person.
Oh, cool. I've gotten that before. That's not the first time someone said that.
Where does that? Have you always been? I feel like you were a tomboy growing up. Like you wore cuff pants and.
No, I mean, well, there was a time. It was both. I was such a girly girl. I didn't wear pants for a single day of kindergarten or first grade. Dresses every day. Dresses and tights. Fell all the time on the playground. Terrible balance, and would rip a hole in my tights every single day. I was best friends with our nurse in elementary school. Shout out Miss Granada. She and me were buds. And then there was like a time, and then I started wearing like pants, and then I was like wouldn't wear a dress, and I refused to wear pink for many years. But I was still like a girl. I feel like, I don't know, like I'm not good at makeup or anything. But not because I don't think it's cool. Like, good, you do you. And I like looking nice for sure. Obviously not today. This wasn't one of those days. But I like it. I don't know. It felt like just a lot of time and money to get good at that. So I just didn't.
That makes sense.
I guess kind of like I hang out with dudes. I don't know.
Where's that feisty is how I would have described you. Feisty. Where does that? Have you always just been?
Oh yeah, that's forever.
Interesting. I think it works well with your comedy.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Thank
you. You and Bob in particular, and I'll get to Bob eventually. And that's before I even get to that. One of the things I did not and don't want to do is link you guys too much. Yeah. I would like this to be your own. I'm gonna talk because there's a connection there that I want to talk about.
Sure.
But I want you to be your own person in this.
Well, okay, so let me just say this. I dated comics before I did comedy.
Okay.
I dated a few comics who don't do it anymore. I dated a couple who still do it, and we do still run into each other, and it's been very cool. Like they've been great. And I've always been very attracted to the kind of person
funny person.
Well, sure, funny, but also like a little bit delusional to like do this and really believe that they should be doing this. And like outgoing and interesting and like an interesting perspective on things, like kind of philosophical in a sense, like, you know, thinking more about something than just like surface, like, oh, this is what's going on and it is, but like finding an angle on it, finding the funny part. And especially that dark humor, always been very drawn to that. So I started dating Bob less than a year into doing comedy. Like I started in July of 2019 and I met Bob in February of 2020. So it was less than a year and I just liked him. You know, I wasn't looking at it as like, oh, I'm going to date a comic. It was just like, I like this person. And then the quarantine and the pandemic and the shutdown and all of that happened. And then we were like, I don't know we weren't going to tell anybody, and we didn't for about 4 months, 3 or 4 months. We kept it very hidden because we were like, you know, I don't know if this is going to be a thing. You know, I don't want to tell, like, make an announcement and then like 3 months later, like, just kidding, you know. And I was also getting booked a lot more because people thought I was single. It's like hot girl in comedy thing. I know you're taking copious notes.
I'm gonna ask about all this.
Oh, please do. So it's like, so there were just a lot of factors, but the more we hung out and the more we, you know, did a relationship, and when things opened up more and we started like going out together and being like, well, what's that like? What's it like going to mics together, doing shows together, road tripping, doing stuff together? You know, can we do that? And then that was all way easier than I thought it would be. So I was like, all right, this is a thing, this is a relationship. And so now, like, people in the scene for sure know we're very, you know, we're open about it. We don't do a lot on social media about it. Like, I don't like posting selfies or anything because I've never.
Doesn't seem like your vibe.
I did that in college with my first college boyfriend. Like, we did a relationship on Facebook. We posted selfies and cute. And I was 18. It was like magical. And he's 11. I'm going to his wedding in May. So exciting. So we're still friends. He's a great guy. But like now I'm in my 30s and I'm like, I don't need. Like, I feel like that's why it is okay. Because, like, we don't shove the fact that we're in love via social media as much.
Yes. In
person, yeah, we, you know, there's.
You razz a lot.
We do.
I never used the word razz in California because it wasn't necessary. Coming out here, I've seen a lot of razzing.
We razz each other. We're a very razzy couple, but
I need to get into that too.
But I think that's part of, like, I mean, that's just kind of what our comedy looks like right now, and I think it's evolving because he's been doing it for 10 years. I've been doing it for 2.5 years, and like writers write about what they know. And so, like, he's gone through many different relationships over the time that he's done comedy. And he's dated a comic or a couple comics before. But he's never dated someone like me. You know, someone who doesn't drink, really. Someone who doesn't, you know.
Match his level of depravity?
I mean, I do, but in my own way.
Oh, okay.
In my own way. So, like, I don't do drugs or anything, you know. Well, I take edibles and stuff, but I've never done coke.
Right.
I don't judge those who do. I feel like I wouldn't handle it well.
I've done it once and it's mostly uncomfortable to me.
Yeah, I don't like being out of control of my physical space. Like, I don't like that. So like, yeah, I feel like he and I are still figuring out our dynamic in the scene, but with the mic and stuff, and well, both of our mics, because we have 2 of them, I feel like the kind of razzing each other and like the playing off each other and like acknowledging it. Like, I'm not going to ignore him.
Right.
You know?
Right.
I feel like I've been talking a long time.
No, you're good. This is what podcasting is. When it comes to that dynamic, or when it comes to this particular podcast, I just wanted to make sure that you are an individual in it.
Yeah. I mean, this is my take on things, but like he's definitely shaped a lot of what I've done in the last year and a half. For sure. Like, there's no way he wouldn't. But, you know, it's just kind of, you know, it's fluid. The comic you are, the type of jokes you want to tell, the way you tell them, it changes. The more information you get, the more shows you do, the more you learn, the more you're like, oh, you know, whatever that is that needs to change, if you're paying attention, if you really want to get better and improve, you'll change it, you know? So right now, having this relationship and having a relationship be with somebody who a lot of other people in the scene know, and who has such a personality and like who has such a stigma of his own, like I'm not going to ignore that. Way easier to play off of it.
Yes, of course. I guess to connect that to the razzing, that's something that I like the shuffle, the razz shuffle.
Marazmataz.
That's something that I think you guys and a lot of Chicago comics are very good at. And for myself, I'm still trying to find myself as a person outside of comedy and as a comedian and all that. And I get frustrated with myself when it comes to the razzing because you made a sad face. Go on. Because I have the capacity to do it, but it's not my inclination. It's not where my personality. My instinct isn't like, hey, fuck you. I don't do that. And I remember, like, as an example, last night I was hanging out at the Laugh Factory, and there were comics being comics, and I was just drained by it.
Yeah.
Like I like conversation like this where a joke comes in.
Sure.
And then you talk, and then a joke comes in. Yeah. But to be in a room where you walk in the room and now you're in a bit for an hour and a half.
It's like everyone's always on. I'm using air quotes.
I go back and forth. Part of me is like, this isn't who I naturally am as a person. I just don't engage in that way with people. And the other part of me is like, yeah, but this is the world of comedy and you need to be able to navigate that.
I think there's so many. I totally hear what you're saying, and I feel the pressure to do that if I'm, especially in a room of more like prolific. I use air quotes because like we're all open micers, really. But when you're in a scene with like, or when you're in a like a bar or an area or show or whatever with a bunch of people who are getting booked on the regular or doing things or producing things, you do have this like instinct of like, I want that person to know I'm funny. I want to take every opportunity to show them I can keep up, I can contribute, I can participate, I can riff, I can make them laugh, you know? And like, I get it. Comedy is big personalities. And I've done both. I've been on and like been in the conversation and fight, punch, you know, match you punch for punch. And I've also like sat in the corner playing a game on my phone and like, I hate this.
Yeah.
I don't want to do this.
I think part of it is that I need to get better at it. I don't know. I'm figuring it all out. And I think the other aspect of it is when I go places, it feels like I've been here for like 10 years, but it's been 6 months. It hasn't been that long.
Has it really only been 6 months?
It's been about 6 months.
Wow.
Yeah, I haven't been here that long. And there's this rapport that I can feel with people when they walk into the room. And so when they're all joking, it's like, well, you guys know each other's rhythms and patterns and personalities, and you know what lines can be crossed, if any. And so I think there's times where I like being new. It's fresh and fun. And there's other times where I'm like, this is very hard. It's lonely.
It can be.
Yeah.
Well, if you want to, here's a little secret for you.
Okay.
If you want to make those connections, but maybe you don't want to like be, you know, the clown in the middle of the room, like whatever, you know, go up to somebody who you like, who you think is funny, who you respect, who you met maybe a couple times. Just ask them questions about them. You know, like what you're doing with me now. It doesn't have to be like a list of interview questions, but like, you know, I the way that I kind of made friends in this scene, even before Bob or when I wasn't with him or whatever, if I thought somebody was genuinely funny, I would go up to them and I'd be like, dude, I love that joke. That one joke you did, that was amazing. How did you write that? Like, where did, you know, and like when you ask somebody a genuine question and you're really interested, you know, it's not like a trick, like I'm tricking you into thinking, like, I think that was actually funny. I really want to know about that. People love talking about themselves.
This is true.
Especially in this environment So, but if you come in as that guy who like you're respectful and you're interested and you know are open to that conversation and naturally it will be a conversation, you know, then that person walks away like, oh, I had a really great conversation with that guy Aaron. He was really insightful. He was really interesting, you know.
I do know, and I think that's why I think what I like about doing this is it's given me the excuse to do that in a different way. Mm-hmm. But I'm probably going to need to start doing that as well.
I mean, there's no rule book. But,
yeah,
you know, it's a trick I've learned.
And the thing you brought up before about getting booked as a female comedian, I gotta know what is like. There's so many angles to that. I mean, we're in post Me Too movement, and so does that affect? What has your experience been like, specifically as a woman in the comedy scene, and how is it? What are the pros and cons? How have you felt about it?
Well, I definitely got a lot of opportunities early on purely based on how I looked. Because like I had a whole career and background as like a model, like a figure model for drawing classes and stuff. So way before I ever did comedy, I had a lot of nude stuff on Instagram, like drawings and like pictures and all kinds of stuff. So when I started doing comedy and people would find my social media, there were hundreds of like really nice looking photos of me.
Yeah.
And I was single when I started, you know, so you get this and people didn't know how quote unquote feisty I was, you know, or if they saw that it was like, it's like a bit, you know, maybe she's doing a bit, whatever. So there's like that natural, like, oh, maybe if I book her, I'll get to spend more time with her. So I got a lot of opportunities very early, like less than a year in early, like paid opportunities that looking back, I should not have gotten. I had not earned those. I was not ready, you know, and I'm still getting opportunities that in my mind are things that I don't think it's not that I don't think I'm necessarily ready for good enough, but it's that I'm like, I can name 20 other working comedians in the city right now who could like maybe should have been in line before me for that. So I'm appreciative. And so now, because I've talked to a lot of other female comics, especially ones who are starting out, who are much younger than me, and a lot of them feel a very similar of like, I don't want to be just booked because I'm pretty. I don't want guys to book me because they want to sleep with me. And what I tell them all is like, yeah, well, it's going to happen. Guys are going to book you because they want to fuck you.
Yeah.
You know, and it sucks, but, you know, but I'm like, but that's okay. Like, get the first booking because you're pretty. Get the second booking because you're funny. Like,
that's a good way to approach it.
Yeah, take it. If you got that booking based on no reason whatsoever, not based on a single joke you told, fine. Go and crush. Go crush it. Doesn't matter how you got the opportunity. You got it. You know, now go do it. And like show them, yeah, okay, you booked me for the wrong reasons, but the next time you book me, it's going to be because I crushed.
Right. You should be like the Coach Carter of the female comic.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I don't know if jealousy is the right word for my feeling of that. Because it's on one hand getting here, I'm like, oh, I want to do things. And then and seeing that dynamic happen, I get frustrated. And then the other hand, I'm like, well, they did get booked because they're trying to, I guess it's a double-edged sword, and I don't know, grass is always greener, all of that.
Well, the double edge of that is that you get people in the scene looking at that lineup going, he just wants to fuck her.
Right.
You know?
I'm surprised that still is even a thing.
Of course it's still a thing. We're humans. We do everything based on wanting to fuck or not wanting to fuck.
I do make a lot of decisions with my penis, unfortunately.
Everything is fuck-based. The world is fuck-based. And that's fine. And that is what, but just like, I very much accepted it a long time ago. Half my stand-up is based off of sexual situations I've been in or dudes or whatever, you know?
So did you, when you said that you accepted it, like, was there a process into accepting it, or were you like, oh, this is what it is, I've decided I have to accept that?
I don't know. It was like I mean, it didn't happen overnight. It was like a gradual 10 years of dating and fucking and, you know, making good choices based on the wrong reasons, making bad choices based on the quote unquote right reasons, making just like you make a series of choices, especially in your 20s. And then you look back on them.
Yeah, she's got anxiety.
Yeah, right. You look back on them and you go, you know, I did that for the wrong reasons, but I am glad it happened. You know, or vice versa. I did that for the right reasons, and fuck, that was a bad choice. Yeah. You know, and you know, you can't go backwards.
Yeah, I get you, especially on the not going backwards. And the it's funny. I feel like when I talk about myself to you, it's coming off very vague and mysterious. Okay,
you do have a little mysteriousness. Like I don't know anything about you.
Okay, well, let's make this not so one-sided. What are you curious about? Actually, this will be a good way to get the ball rolling. I wrote this down. Okay. What was your perception of me when I? Oh shit. Okay.
I remember the very first time I saw you.
Okay.
It was at Alive One.
Oh Lord.
Yeah, at that little back room.
Yeah.
I remember that, and I remember the set I did that night. I remember it was all women, because it was those like 5 or 6 girls who had taken the comedy class.
Yeah.
They were okay. But I remember you came in and you definitely had a like, I've been doing this out in California. Now I just moved here. So like, I got this. Like, I know what I'm doing. Oh. But half of your set was about having just moved and about being black in Chicago versus being black in California.
Yeah.
That was half of your set. It was like, you know, being black over here, and this is what, you know, people are like, you're going to go to Chicago? Yeah. It's going to be this. And then you came here, you're like, I know I got these dreads. I know what I look like, but like I eat granola, you know, or whatever you were talking about. And you kind of had that thing, and I was like, yeah, okay, he like knows what he's doing on stage, but I swear to God, I'm not just saying this for your podcast. I swear to God, I remember thinking like he has no idea what he's in for. He has no idea what this scene is.
Yeah.
And I was like, I hope that he keeps working and like doesn't get chewed up and spit out by this scene, but I've seen it happen.
Okay. Oh, I'm excited. When you say chewed up and spit out, what does that look like to you? What is a person who comes in cocky? Did I come off cocky? Was it
confident?
Okay. When someone comes in confident or cocky and then get chewed up and spit out, what does that look like?
Usually the portrait of that person is somebody with an ego, for sure. And I don't know you well enough to know where your ego's at, but it's somebody's got an ego. They've been booked on a couple shows. Maybe they even opened for a name at some point, you know. Okay, cool. And then they come into this scene. They're like, I'm going to run this scene. Yeah. And then they go to mics and they get bumped or they bomb or they are not getting on reserves or they see the people who are getting bumped and they are getting reserved. And they're like, well, I'm better than that person, you know, and they start getting to know people and they see the same people at every mic and they're like, I'm funnier than that guy, but then that guy's getting booked and I'm not getting booked. Well, because no one knows me. Well, and then they try to, you know, whatever, and the scene either accepts you or it doesn't, it feels like. But there's so many pockets of this scene, so that's not really true. You'll always find your people. Yeah. But, I mean, I've seen people basically like, go fuck it, you know. I'm not doing this scene, doesn't fuck with me, I'm not fucking with you. Okay.
I think it's okay. So when I first got here, I think that I had a lot of self-aware ego. So like I knew how I came off where I was from, which was not good. And so coming out here, I was like, I know how I can come off, and I know that I have an ego right now. And I know, like what you said, I don't know what I'm in for. I know that I don't know what I'm in for. Yeah. I'm aware, like...
You know what you don't know.
Right. I know that I don't know that I don't know that I don't know. And it goes down this rabbit hole. Similar with the winter. Yeah. Where, goddamn, when I tell you, I'm moving to Chicago, cold, it's going to be cold, it's going to be cold, it's going to suck, it's going to be cold. And that's all I heard. Yeah. And it got to the point where it numbed me. I was like, I know it's going to be cold. And I know it's going to be hard, but I don't know. I can't fathom it. I've never lived in below zero, so I don't know what it even feels like. Yeah. I just know it's going to happen. Yeah. So coming out here, I had a lot of that I'm funnier than this person. I'm funny. But I kept trying to keep that in, like, I was like, this is inside of me. Do not show people that ego, because that's not going to be a good look. And it's not a justified ego. And so then as time has gone by, I feel like the internal ego has subsided a bit more. And now I have a kind of an understanding, but I'm sure there's more.
You know, I've seen a lot of people come in, and Bob even does this a lot too, where people make assumptions about other people's perceptions of them. Sometimes they're right and sometimes they're not. And so, like, when you're saying, like, I know what people see, I'm like, I didn't see. You know, if you hadn't gotten on that stage and told me you were from California and you just moved here and people think this, I wouldn't have thought that. But if you had just gone on stage and just told some jokes, I would have just been judging you based on those jokes.
So it all depends on what I presented at that moment.
I mean, yeah, that's every first impression. But like Bob does this too. He'll go on stage. I've told him about this too. I told him last night. He's like, oh, you know, it's about to get more likable because Ariel's gonna come up. You know, I'm supposed to be unlikable. I'm like, nobody thinks you're unlikable until you tell us that. You don't have to tell us that.
It's so funny because I really like Bob.
Everybody really likes Bob, but everybody, here's what it is. Everybody loves Bob, but nobody likes him.
Okay, there you go. I can see a lot of myself in him in a lot of ways.
He will be thrilled to know that.
Oh, that's interesting. I can't wait.
Because you're a black dude. All he wants is the approval of black people. When I pointed out that he had the same shoes as Mike Robinson, he did a fucking happy dance. He made me take a picture of them.
I can't. God damn it. There's so many different topics. But what I see in him when the assumption of people disliking him, I think is, if I'm to make that, is that what it is?
And that's a whole other, like, that when you have him on, you can ask him about that whole backstory and like why people's perception of him in the scene is the way it is.
Yeah.
That's a whole thing, and that's way before I ever met him, way before I ever did comedy.
Okay.
So I've heard about it, but I wasn't there for it.
It sounds like, I think we talked about this a little bit at the Gold Star. It sounds like we both approached comedy in a similar way when we first started. And I left that place that I was from because it seems like he's kind of found his way almost in
It's going.
He's figured out. They don't like him, but they love him. Where I was from, it felt like I never reached the love. And I mean, it felt like it at the very end when there's a bunch of going away parties and people have graduation goggles. But
that's a good way to put it.
Yeah, but if I didn't decide to move to Chicago, I don't think people's perception of me would have changed all that much.
You know, I say to people a lot in Chicago, if people complain about like, oh, I'm not getting Laugh Factory, I'm not getting Zanies, whatever it is, I'm like, oh, if you want to get those, just tell everyone you're moving. They'll book you.
Yeah,
tell everybody you're moving. I'm moving to Austin next month. Oh man, I gotta have you on my show.
Yeah.
Everybody.
It's a weird dynamic.
It is.
And I'm trying to make myself less mysterious because when I do this podcast, I'm meeting the people over and over again, and it feels like people who listen. Surprisingly, there are people. Hi, people. Hi, Johnny Gold. It's Johnny. But it feels like I'm saying the same thing, but I'm trying to ignore that and just meet people as I meet them.
Sure.
But this is an incredibly transformative point in my life. And it doesn't matter how people perceive me and what I experience and yada, yada,
it matters.
Yeah. And that's the thing. But on the other hand,
it matters. It matters how they perceive you. But I guarantee nobody perceives you the way that you think they are.
I guess that's very good. Because the way I think people perceive me is, I think, okay, I'm going to try to be super self-aware and honest with myself of how I think people perceive me. And I could be wrong, and this is in a general sense. I think I'm perceived as quiet, quiet until you get like a lot of walls up, probably pretty walled up, and I don't know. I don't know. Never mind with this stupid.
I can't speak to how other people perceive you. You know, I can only speak to what my perception of you was. And I think there are a lot of comics in this scene.
Okay.
There are so many comics in this scene, and we are all very preoccupied with ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, that's nobody. Not that nobody gives a fuck about me, but nobody gives a fuck about me. In the sense.
Yeah, like you give a fuck about somebody else when you're immediately talking to them, or they're a producer, you know, or you're trying to get something from them, or you're interested, whatever it is. But then you don't come off stage thinking about, you know, someone else's set.
You come off thinking about your set.
Yeah.
I think what you just said there a second ago about people want something. I think that's the other thing that is why I like this podcast, because it gives me a chance in a longer setting to not feel so industry-ish. You know what I mean? Like, I met I spoke with the manager of the Laugh Factory recently, and I talked to him, and it was about some opportunities or whatever. And he immediately was like, yeah, I'm used to people talking to me and asking me for shit. And then he goes off in this whole thing, and I was like, yeah, it's such a grimy business. Like, I want to make a living off of this. This is all I want to do, is just make a living off of performing and doing comedy. At the same time, it seems like you can't not get dirty. You know, like those.
Depends on your definition of dirty.
Like,
so you say dirty, I say greasy. Whatever.
It feels like Training Day. How remember when Denzel Washington's like, you gotta have a little dirt on you if you want people to trust you. It's like there's a little. There's just something about it. I don't know.
Look, here's the thing about a comedy-based podcast is that you're an open micer asking another open micer for advice.
Right.
I don't know either. I'm not making a living doing this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like all of us, and a lot of us do this. A lot of us in the scene, I've had this conversation with a lot of different people on a lot of different podcasts. Nobody almost, I can maybe say there are 5 comics in this scene. 5 who I'm like, they actually know what they're talking about.
Yeah.
They have done those shows, they've toured, they've opened for those names. They do know how to make a living doing this. And then the other 790 of us, we're all just kind of philosophizing about it. Mm-hmm. And we're around it a lot, and we listen to the same podcast. We're all listening to YMH. We're all listening to Two Bears. Yeah. We're all listening to, you know, Bill Burr, and we're all listening to, you know, the same voices. And we're all filtering those voices that we look up to and admire through our own lens and making it like, oh, he's talking to me.
Yeah.
He's talking to me. Oh, well, when Tom says you got to be obsessed with it, how am I obsessed with this? You know, when Christina says, oh, a true professional comic is somebody who they're having the worst day. There was a death in the family. This happened, that, whatever it is. But they have a show that night, and you go on stage and you make people laugh. Mm-hmm. When you make other people laugh, because that's your job, whatever your shit is, but that's your job. But then you have people like Bob, people who worship Stanhope and Hicks, and people who, it's like the punk rock of the comedy scene, the people who are like, and the way Bill Burr got famous was by just, you know, decimating this audience, people who have meltdowns on stage. And then you have the punk rock people who are like, yeah, but I'm gonna get famous because I'm not gonna give a shit. Yeah, I'm gonna be, and I'm like, none of us know anything. None of us know anything.
Yes.
We're all performing at a 10 p.m. mic at North Bar. None of us know anything.
It's when you describe the different camps, especially like the punk, that's something I noticed. Mm-hmm. Where I was from, it was too small to have different camps. You're just a camp.
Yeah.
Coming out here, I'm like, oh, you're a punk rock comic. Oh, you're an industry comic. Oh, you're a Southside comic. It's like
you're an alternative comic.
Yeah. And I think if I'm going to continue to philosophize this, I think if you can make yourself stand out to the point where you can't be pinpointed to any of those groups, I think.
I don't know about that being pinpointed. I just be funny. Just be funny.
Yeah.
Just tell jokes. Don't be any kind of comic. Just be funny. Just be a funny comic.
Yeah, I think I have this mentality about it because I've kind of gotten to this place, and I know it's not healthy, but I've gotten to this place where it is live off of this or kill myself.
Okay.
Yeah, and so when you said like I hope this place doesn't eat him and swallow him and stuff, in my head like that's not even possible because I don't want to die.
Okay.
And so it's
That's
like
great.
it's I admire and I think I'm envious of your. I guess we'll see what happens. Yeah. Well, in my head movies, that's what I call them, my head movies.
Mm-hmm.
In my head movies, I'm like, I can't see what happens because if I just let seeing what happens, I don't want to end up, killing myself. So like, I got to make something happen. But then I go into my whole Buddhist shit and meditation and learning how to let go. So I think, I'm just in this transition period and I'm very tired. So, yeah, I don't know. What are your thoughts on all of that?
All of that. I'm tired all the time. I'm tired constantly. I work full time and then I do comedy at night. And I still babysit and I still model and I still have a romantic relationship and social relationships. I'm absolutely exhausted. Mm-hmm. And like last night I didn't go to Reggie's. There's that midnight mic at Reggie's and they're run by two of my really close friends, and I love going to that mic and I've always had a fun time when I've gone. But Bob and I had a whole conversation about last night. Like when I hit a wall, I hit a wall. Like
you exhaust yourself?
Oh yeah, if I'm at especially like a late mic, because Bob's such a night person and I'm not, because I can't be. I have to be at work on Monday at 7:45 a.m. I can't be a night person. I have a job, and like my particular job is not a slack off job. If I don't do my job, there are legal repercussions. Like it's a job. It's a grown up job. So, and I take it very seriously, and I love my job. And I love doing comedy. But like last night, I was gonna go to the mic and I chose not to because it starts at midnight. And I was sitting on the couch and I knew that I was really tired. I knew that I was like exhausted. But then I have Tom Segura, like, you gotta be obsessed with this kind of thing. And I'm talking about, and Bob's like, I know you. Like when you're tired and don't want to be there, you don't have a good set, and you're not fun to be around, and you don't want to be there. He's like, so why force yourself to get off the couch and get dressed and go there and do this just to do a couple minutes of comedy, when he's like, you already know how to do comedy. Yeah, okay, you want to run a bit, but like you're not going to run a bit another time in the week. And I have to like remind myself that. But then there's that FOMO, like what if it was such a great crowd?
Yeah.
So I make him lie to me. Like this morning I was like, how was it? He was like, oh, you would have hated it. I'm like, really? He was like, well, I'm like, no. Just say I would have hated it.
Yeah.
Just say, I don't want to know. I don't want to know what I missed.
Yeah. That's that like the timeline of COVID, of when was it March of 2020 when the shit hit the fan? Yep. Did that affect you? Did that change you very much, or do you feel like?
Oh, I had a break for the first time in years.
Can you break down your timeline of COVID? Like when the inkling, a little before March, let's say around Kobe. Yeah.
I remember that. Yeah.
Yeah, around Kobe. And then March, and then going into the actual shutdown, then the protests, all the what was that for you?
For me, it was the best break I've ever had in my life. I'm not gonna lie. I was so prior to grad school, for years, I graduated college and I never had just one job. I worked like 2 or 3 part-time jobs because I was working in like fine arts admin. I was working as a model. I was teaching theater classes. I then worked in theater education. I managed at daycare for a while. Like I did a bunch of things. I was driving all around. I had like all these weird side gigs. So I was busy for all of my 20s. Plus, I dated so much. I dated like it was a part-time job. Like the way I do comedy now is how I used to date. Like I had a date maybe every night. Like I dated a lot. And I was like, when I finally found speech pathology and I got into school, it was really stressful. But for me, like I was in school with a lot of 23-year-olds like fresh out of undergrad, but I was like 28. And there were a couple other people in my cohort who were also in their late 20s, early 30s. And I was like, this is the most free time I've ever had, you know? And like, sure, there was a lot to do, but I was like, all I have to worry about right now is like going to class and coming home and studying, doing my practicum, doing a round or a rotation, and going home and studying. Maybe still dating a little bit. Sure. Maybe, you know, having a social life here and there. Fine. But like we had month breaks between semesters. Like I had more free time than I'd ever had.
This is pre-Kobe?
This is pre-COVID, pre-everything.
Okay.
But like right before pre. So this was grad school, and that's when I found comedy. And then that was July 2019.
Okay.
And then COVID became something in the vernacular in about November 2020, right?
Yeah.
Or no, November 2019. I'm sorry. November 2019 is when we started hearing about it.
Yes. Yeah.
What is this? There's something going on. Okay. China, yeah. Whatever.
Were you cocky about it? Were you like...
I didn't know.
You weren't even thinking about it?
Not really. I was like, something's going on. And then the more it started coming, the more... I think about like January or February, I was like, yeah, it'll come here. But I didn't... You know, who could have known? Yeah. But what it was, I graduated from graduate school in April of 2020.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
That must have been weird.
It was, we didn't walk. We did a Zoom thing. Like it was, you know, whatever. But the thing about that timeline was that I was just starting to get, I'm not going to say good at comedy, but better. Mm-hmm. Like I had been going to one mic a week from July to like September, just one a week. That was it. Nothing else. I'd write a new set every week, but it was just one mic a week. And I started going a couple more and then a couple more. And most of these were out in the suburbs. So I was driving from the city to the suburbs to do comedy. Mm-hmm. Much more forgiving, much less industry, quote unquote, much more like friendly, supportive, whatever. And more audiences.
Yeah, they give you actual time out there, don't they?
Yeah, but also regular people show up.
That sounds so nice.
It was nice. It is nice. They're still going. There's still stuff.
If I had a car. Okay.
Okay. Well, that's a big one. I've always had a car. So there was that too. But so I'm doing comedy. I start doing a few more mics, start doing a few more city mics. I get to my last semester of classes. And then my last semester of grad school was like January to April of 2020. And that last semester, there's a point to this. That last semester is just working. It's not classes. You're like basically working a job, but it's like an internship. Mm-hmm. So you're doing the work.
Slavery.
Well, yeah, I mean, you're paying to do it.
Oh.
But like you have to get a certain amount of hours to get your license.
Yeah. Interpreting is probably very similar.
I mean, yeah, exactly. Like you're a therapist. You can't just, get thrown into the fray. So you have a mentor, you have all of these things where you can do therapy, but then you have somebody who like knows what they're doing to kind of watch over and make sure that you're not, filling out paperwork wrong, making sure you're not misleading a child or an adult or, whatever area you're in. But either way, so that last semester of grad school, I was working in a school. Mm-hmm. So January to March, I was working full time in a school. Started doing comedy a lot more because I didn't have homework anymore. I had passed my comms. I didn't have classes. So I was really starting to like do comedy at night. I was getting booked on stuff. That was super cool. I was starting to get paid for stuff. And again, way before I really deserved it. I was hot single girl in the scene. I was getting booked. I wasn't not funny, but I also was like, I've looked back on some of those sets and I'm like, oh, gross, awful. But
passable comedy. You told setups and punchlines.
I did the job.
Yeah.
I fulfilled the job.
Gotcha.
So all of this was kind of starting to take off and it was going. And then in March, what happened was my school, we were a week out from spring break. And then it was like 2 days before that Monday, like that weekend, they're like, don't come to work on Monday. We're just going to take an extra week of spring break. We're just going to have a 2-week spring break. But then we never went back, right? And a lot of people know that story, right? So, but being in a school, like it's kind of that anyway. So we never went back, and then everything shut down. And it's so wonderful to not do anything when you know that nobody else is doing anything. Oh my God, it was a gift. It was for me. I mean, yes, people died. It was awful. I stayed safe. No, but like just like the timeline of my life and all like I had been constantly running and doing a million things for 10 years. And for the first time in my adult life, I could sit on the couch guilt free. I'm not missing a mic. I'm not missing out on an opportunity. I'm not missing work. I'm not missing out on money. I'm not missing anything because there's nothing going on. So for me, it was awesome. And then the government sent me money. And then I've started hanging out with this guy and we're getting along really well. And we get to just have the whole honeymoon phase of our new relationship in a time when neither of us have anything else to do but hang out with each other and have a great time.
Fuck.
Yeah, that too. But we got to know each other, you know, like really got to know each other. And when we weren't fighting and we were just getting along and we were both surprised, we were both shocked that it was working. But so that was the timeline of COVID for me. So for me, it was awesome.
Yeah.
Couldn't have come at a better time.
I think it's funny. I echo a lot of that with I echo a lot of that with a lot of realization, dark realization coupled in there. So for me, I was working at a school as well. I was interpreting. I remember all the kids were talking mad shit. I remember I was talking to this deaf kid. I can't say his name. Every day he would make fun of COVID. Yeah. He would talk about how it was a zombie apocalypse and murder. And then they were like, yeah, don't go back to work. And I at the time I was living in my grandmother's garage in the desert. And so it was weird because going inside the house felt like I was about to kill my grandmother. Yeah. And so it was like I was half camping outside in the heat with my dog. It was a very strange experience. And part of it was because I worked my ass off my whole life too. So there was that break and that there was no FOMO didn't exist anymore.
Yeah. Oh God.
Oh, I miss no FOMO.
I miss that.
And I felt rested. I had time to learn how to meditate, watched Avatar, became Buddhist, all that shit. And that was all of the good stuff I got out of it that made me feel regenerated. But then I was living in a conservative middle to upper middle class suburb where I grew up. And when the protests started happening, okay, you remember the great toilet paper shortage of 2020? I
do, but it didn't affect me because I had bought like 3 years worth of toilet paper like less than a year prior.
Perfect.
So I was good.
Good for you.
Thank you.
Sam's
Club, baby.
I went to the grocery store, same grocery store I grew up in my whole life. And I walked in there and the amount of, this is probably what Bob's going to look like when he's like 50. But old white dudes, bald, big shirts, all of them had different guns on them and American flags and eagles and Trump.
How dare you?
Well, he's not gonna do that. But
no, he's not gonna bald. He's got great genetics.
Oh, good for him.
There. Yeah.
But
I met his dad. He's good. They're good people.
But I walked in and it was like that whole community that I had always felt uncomfortable around and was being gaslit by took off their masks to reveal the monsters that they were. Yeah. And I remember, and I was doing Postmates to make money and shit. And I remember I drove down my, it gives me chills thinking about it. I drove down my old neighborhood that I grew up in as a kid. And do you ever maybe like smell something you haven't smelled in a while or listen to a song you haven't heard in a while and it brings up memories, but not visual or auditory, a feel, like a gut feeling?
Yeah, sure.
I drove down my old neighborhood and I had the dread, Like I couldn't, to this day, I don't even know how to describe it. It was like I drove down and I didn't have any visual memories or auditory of bad things. I just knew like, oh, I must have blocked some shit out because this is a horrifying drive for me right now. And every house had a big old American flag, a big old Trump flag. It looked like the same people were living there. And what had clicked for me was, obviously I knew racism existed, but it was like, oh, you guys have been fucking with my head my whole life. Like you guys have been, I've been saying very vocally, like, something is off. I don't feel, you've seen the Truman Show. Mm-hmm. There's just something off kilter.
Yeah.
And so when there was an emotional release of like, oh, I'm not crazy. Oh, this is okay. So
they were racist this whole time.
Yeah, they've been doing the things I've been saying they've been doing, and this is real. So I felt super validated. Mm-hmm. Then I felt fucking disgusted.
Yeah.
And like angry, and
it's like that white guy who's like, I'm not racist because I have a black friend.
God damn it, yeah.
And you're like, no, I know you're racist. I know you are.
Yes. And I felt like most of the people I knew, I was the black friend that they were talking about.
Yeah.
And that is insulting on a bunch of different levels.
Sure.
And so that quarantine and then a bunch of other stuff that we're probably not even going to have time for, but I think when coming here, I'm in like awestruck. I'm still in. This is still looking out the window and seeing snow, knowing I escaped that, and I'm in the big city or whatever. And you know,
it's the big city.
It's the big city.
Mm-hmm.
It is really, really hard for me to describe to people, and I'm just in this big transition period. Like, obviously, people change and they develop and all of that. The vibe I get from you, correct me if I'm wrong, you're making a face.
Oh, okay. I would love to know the vibe you get from me.
It feels as though, obviously, you're not done changing and the world's gonna change. But it feels as though in the moment you're in right now, it seems like you have a fairly good handle on you and what you stand for, what you believe in, what makes you happy, what makes you angry, what you need to stay away from a little more, what you should gravitate towards. It seems like Bob is a good navigator for that. He's like a nice little compass to help you navigate that.
He's very helpful.
And it feels like, for me, it feels like I escaped like a giant forest fire that I knew how to navigate, like, and now I'm in a new forest with no compass.
Processing trauma.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There you go. Processing trauma. That's a normal people way of describing it.
Yeah, and that's totally fair and valid and normal.
And I think what is difficult about it is being so open and vocal about it brings this response of like, kind of a we'll just get over it thing, or like if I find myself worrying about what other people perceive of me, that's a trauma thing from surviving people that if they perceive me as the wrong way, they will actively call the cops on me. So it's like, well, now I'm in a place where that's not really going to happen because there's enough other black people to where they're not going to focus on me. And so these little isms that I'm trying to deal with, I think are misinterpreted. I've also gone on a tangent. That was my turn.
Yeah, I love it.
Yeah, so I'm less mysterious.
I've learned a lot about you.
Well, it makes me wonder, like that first time seeing me juxtaposed to now. I mean, I always wonder, like, what are the differences?
Well, so now I think the reason why that was the first set you did makes so much more sense now of why that's what's on your mind is other people's perceptions of you, and why you were I don't know what your other sets were, the first time, but that was the first one I saw you do, and it makes a lot more sense that like the topic you want to write about is this idea of perception and being perceived and what other people see when they look at you. Because like here, well, I mean, you look like a lot of other people I know.
Yeah.
You look like a lot of other comics here.
Yeah.
There are a lot of other comics who fit the bill, so to speak. You know, are you guys talking about different things? Yeah, sure. You know, but and I don't mean to stereotype. I'm not trying to say like black comics all, you know, talk about the same shit or look the same or anything, you know, because I could say that about white comics too.
Yeah.
And female comics and, you know, whatever. But it's more like when I see, you know, a tall black guy with dreads get on stage and be like, I know what you see when you look at me. I'm like, well, yeah. Like, yeah, that's what I see when I look at you. Cool. Yeah. Like, tell me a joke. But you're coming at it like, I just escaped a prison. Like, and that really makes me like my thought when you were telling me that story just now was like, wow, it must be incredibly difficult to build a personality when you're busy fighting every day against people judging you about surface things.
Yeah.
And like trying to overcome that, like, what of my personality exists purely because of the interactions I've had with other people versus what is actually true to me and myself.
Yeah.
That must suck.
It does. Yeah, it does. But then the other end of it is I feel like I can breathe. Like, okay, so how you were saying, you know, I'm not a dime a dozen, but you see comics that look like me. Like me talking about it the way I did was probably like, not silly, but
there was just no context for it.
Right. And I can't explain all that before the set.
Well, right. Exactly. But that's a big part of it too.
Yeah.
And that's more about just being a comic, especially an open mic comic, is, you know, coming into an open mic and reading the room. Who's listening to me right now? Who are those people? What do they want to hear? What is my goal right now? Mm-hmm. Am I trying to make those people laugh? Am I trying to work out this bit? Am I trying to see if this new tag I wrote fits? Am I trying to practice crowd work? Am I trying to practice riffing? Am I trying to practice storytelling? Whatever it is. And is this the room to do all of that? And then you come in, and then at a certain point, you're definitely like, fuck it. I can't pay attention to all that. Fuck it. I have this one thing I need to do. Just let me do it. Whatever. And then you come off stage and you're like, did it not work? Did it work fine? Did it work as well as it's ever gonna work? Was it the audience? Was it the way I delivered it? You know, it's a lot.
It's a lot. And this is another thing I'm trying to not do is when I'm in front of a white audience, and you've probably seen me do it, but when I'm in front of a white audience that I perceive as similar to the people I was around, I burn the set down. I'm like, I want to make you all as uncomfortable and angry as possible. And I shouldn't, like, professionally speaking, what Christina P says, like, no, regardless of all that, your job is to make people laugh.
Not at an open mic, it's not. At an open mic, your job is to practice being a comic.
Yes.
In my opinion.
Yes.
And I didn't say practice being a better comic or get better at comedy. It's just practicing
being a comic.
Just being a comic.
I agree. And I think regardless, the instinct to try to infuriate the audience is probably not a good one.
Well, that's something you and Bob can chat about.
Oh, I can't wait.
Because he loves a good bomb. He is all about burning his set down to the ground. He's a big fan. I don't get it, but he likes to turn.
I want to talk to him about that because for me, it's stand-up is like I feel like I come off so pretentious sometimes about it, but it is an emotional thing for me. Mm-hmm. And so it's more like I want you to hear me. When I see this audience, I'm like, oh, if I start making you laugh, you're not going to listen. You're not going to hear what the fuck. Yeah, well, because where I was from, I wrote stuff in such a way. I remember writing and thinking through, like, okay, if I take it this angle, this makes sense. This, and then they'll understand racism. Right?
Well, as a comic, are you trying to make people laugh or change their minds?
At the time, I was trying to change their minds. Now I'm in a place of just trying to understand myself whilst making them laugh, and then I'll transform into whatever I need to transform. But like, I'm actively in this transition period that I'm aware of. And it's so hard to describe to people.
Can I tell you, this is, I'm changing the subject, but I'm not.
Okay.
Can I tell you the best set I've ever seen you do?
Yeah, I'm excited.
It was at Stretch.
Okay, yeah.
And
oh! Yeah. Okay,
you know exactly what I'm talking about.
I remember that set.
That was the best set I've ever seen you do. It was one of the best sets of the night. I was so glad I was hosting that one because Brian had COVID, and so Bob and I were hosting for him, and I went when you went on a tear. You were mad, but so funny. And the audience was so with you. The audience of white other comics and like 3 civilians were so with you. Yeah. Because in that moment, you didn't seem calculated. You didn't seem like you were like, you know, looking through your notebook and like, oh, I got to make sure I say. You were just talking about the absurdity of that situation, you know, and you can talk more if you want to go into what the bit was. But you were just so like, you didn't need to write about it because you could just talk about it because in and of itself, the situation was hilarious. But then I'm like, I got to go host after this guy. And of course it was like, you know, this white woman, black man kind of dynamic. And so all I could say when I went up was like, look, I don't know why you like are mad at me for that. Like, I didn't mean to call the cop or whatever I said. Like, I tried to play it off where like, I'm the woman you're referring to in your set. And I got the laugh. I remember I got the laugh. I said something else. I don't remember what it was. But yeah, that was the best set I've ever seen you do.
Thank you. And I remember that set. And I think that transition I'm in right now is to try to, it comes out. I've had other moments like that. And I can think of a few other sets in Chicago where I've had that. And it's not always angry. Sometimes it's other things, but I don't know how to make that happen. And I know eventually I'll get there. I've only been here for 6 months. Oh, and for context for Johnny Gold who's listening, it was about how white people feel like need to be comfortable all the time. I need to bring this back. White people feel the need to be comfortable all the time, and then I talked about how white women are very dangerous when they're uncomfortable.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, and because it was like there was a situation where like a white woman called the cops on a black man.
Yeah, Emmett Till.
Oh, it was about Emmett Till.
It was about Emmett Till. Yeah.
Okay. Well, then there you go. Yeah. And I definitely know that the whole story. I definitely get that. And yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
And then it led to an entire city being burnt down because of this.
Because one white woman was uncomfortable
in an elevator. Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I was like, look, I didn't like it. I'm sorry. I don't care about you. I didn't have a jacket with me. I was hangry. I was hangry that day. What do you want from me? Good. I will burn your city down. If you run out of burritos right when it's my turn in line, I will burn your city. I will. And you know what? Because it's about me. Because it is about me.
God damn it. Yeah. Thank you. I forgot about that.
That was good.
Okay, so then, in your opinion, how, based off of what you've learned about me so far, I'm going to go on stage tonight, right? I'm going to work out some material. I'm going to do something. What do you think, what mentality do you think I should have from your perspective? I know, but like, I don't know how I make that happen. And I know I can do fine with my material. I know when I'm calculated. I know how to write jokes. I'm sure you've seen me do fine.
I have seen you do fine.
Fine.
I've seen you do just fine. I've also seen you not do fine.
Yeah.
But you've seen me not do fine.
We've all done
We've all bombed in front of each other. It's whatever.
But that is that emotion and here's an example. I was talking to this dude, Mike, and I'm sorry, dude, I can't pronounce your last name and you're directing a thing I'm making. But he was saying that the times when I seem to be doing the best are when I am, he described it as, oh, Lord, can you talk?
Yeah.
I got to look it up because it's a particular... Yep, this podcast is falling apart.
What is... Okay.
So this dude, a friend of mine, another comic, he said that he worded this particular thing. This is so fucked up.
You worded something. Okay. Are you basically saying you've had better sets when you do a particular type of thing on stage, yes, and that's been like the best you do, like when you let go, when you do this or that or whatever, and how do I replicate that?
Yes.
How do I just do that?
And
I don't fucking know.
Oh, God damn it.
I'm not famous. I don't know how you do anything.
But you know Bob Keane. God fucking
what does
damn
Bob have to? Bob doesn't. Bob and I and you are doing the same mics. You know, he's been doing it 10 years. You've been doing it 5 or 6. I've been doing it 2.5. We're all performing at the same open mics.
You are right. You are always right.
I'm not always right.
Damn it. It's like, he said it was Contagious Passion.
Oh,
that's how lovely. Yeah. God damn it. This whole podcast went off the rails for a second.
That's okay.
Contagious Passion. He said that when I do well, it's always when you can tell I am passionate, and whatever that passion is, for whatever reason, it's always contagious. Like when I really care is when other people start to care. But it's like when, you write out these jokes, and I can't just go up there and wing it every goddamn time. So it's hard to present that type of passion to stuff that you don't even have your full thoughts on. Yeah. So I guess that's that word, Contagious Passion. I'm trying to bring that on stage, and I don't know how to do it.
I just had this at Gold Star on Wednesday. I did a set. It was fun. I was hosting. It was fun. There were a couple comics who were a little newer in the scene came up to me afterwards, and their big question was, this one girl specifically, she's been doing it for a month, and she was like, how, like, I'll do something on stage, and like maybe it's I hadn't written it out, or it's a riff or whatever, and I really like how it sounded. I really like the way I said it. I really like the tone, the this, the that, the timing, whatever. And then I try to do it again, and it just comes out like rehearsed or this or disingenuous, or it's not the same. And how do you make it so, that's the age-old question. When you watch Ball Hog on Netflix, you know that Tom had done verbatim that hour with those beats hundreds of times. But it's so good. And not just that one, but like that, one sticks out. And you watch it, and it looks like it comes across as the first time he's thought of it. Damn. Or telling you, how do you do practice? I don't know. You do it a lot. This one girl who was talking to me, I'm like, you've been doing this a month. Don't worry about doing it the same or how it's. I'm like, just do it. Just do it a billion times. Let it sound rehearsed. Let it sound rehearsed and dumb. Because you know what'll happen is, like, you'll write a joke that's good and it gets laughs, right? Or you'll write a bit, or you'll have a topic and it's good and you do it and it gets laughs, and you'll do it again. And maybe it gets fewer laughs. All right, whatever. But you do it again, and you do it again, and you do it again, and you keep doing that bit, and eventually it just stops getting laughs. And so you put it on the shelf, and you're like, all right, fuck that bit. It's not getting laughs. So you write something new, and you start doing that, and you work it, and you figure it out, and you do stuff, and whatever. And then months later, you say, oh yeah, that Emmett Till bit. Yeah. Let me take that off the shelf again. And you do it, and I guarantee you, if you do that bit tonight, it probably will get a laugh. Yeah. And you'll be like, why did I put that thing on the shelf? Because it stopped getting laughs. And why did it stop getting laughs? Maybe it was the room, maybe it was you, maybe it was the audience, maybe it was, the person who had just went up before you. Maybe 15 people left the room because you went up 18th at a late open mic, and they just left because they're tired. I don't know. But if you believe in a bit, if you think it's good, do it until you don't want to do it anymore and write something else. It doesn't mean you can't do the bit again. And how do you make stuff sound passionate every time you do it? You practice. You just do it a lot of times.
This is a beautiful way to end the podcast.
Just do it. The only way. The only way. And again, I'm 2.5 years in. You're taking advice from another open micer. Yeah. I don't know what I'm doing either. But I do know that there is nobody who you purchased tickets to see who did this a couple times and then made it.
Yeah.
Every single person that we pay to watch, every person who made it on every person did this so many times and bombed and fucked up and dropped tags and dropped punchlines and did premises that didn't work in the wrong rooms and just fucked up so many times until they started figuring out how to do it more consistently. You just gotta do it.
Just do it.
Just do it.
This was actually a commercial for Nike.
Oh, God.
The whole time. Just do it.
Well, for comedy, yeah. You're only gonna get better if you keep doing it.
Well, good thing I'm going up. Where are you going tonight?
Probably nowhere.
Okay.
I'm probably not gonna do it.
Fair enough.
I don't feel like getting better tonight.
All right.
I feel like sleeping.
Practice as I say, not as I do.
I'm back to like what I want from it, or we'll see what happens kind of thing. I don't know what I want, so I don't feel that pressure inside of me. Like, I'm not paying my rent from this.
Right.
I don't have that pressure of like, if I don't book that show, I'm not going to be able to live or eat or whatever. I have a job. And I really do have to put time and effort into that job, because if I don't do that job, there's other things that'll happen. Comedy is like, if I'm not feeling up for it, it's more important to my mental and emotional health to not try to force myself to go.
I think that's very healthy, and I'm also learning how to do that. But at the same time, I if I don't. So.
Surge is good. It's Sunday. We're recording this on a Sunday, so Surge is really good.
I was gonna go to a live one tonight.
I haven't been there since the first time I saw you.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't been there since. It's fine. It's a weird time, and I do other stuff on Sundays, so I just haven't been back to. I liked it fine. I like that room in the back. I like that couch. That was cool.
It was a nice couch.
But if I do go to a Sunday, it'll be Surge. The billiard place on Fullerton and Lawndale, because it's real close to where I live, and then Reed's. I used to go there a lot. Reed's local, which is like Belmont and Sacramento. It's right by Kuma's Corner. They have a fun mic. It's a little bit later. I did Three Dead Moose once. I bombed. And it's not like the room was fine. I bombed and I didn't like it, so I haven't been back.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Yeah, I'm very cool like that. I'm very petty.
All right. I'm gonna end this. Bye.
Bye.